Are we live? Are we not live? Normally, this thing tells me when I'm live, when I'm not live, but right now it's moving so slowly, I can't quite tell what's up. Hopefully we're live. So I'm gonna check. For some reason, this thing did not go to X. It went to locals, Rumble and YouTube. And it appears that we are connected, but it remains to be seen. If you are watching this live, please put something in the chat box. Tell me that you can see me and you can hear me. My live streaming interface seems to be acting up a little bit. Okay, I see there are a couple of people here. So guys, please put something in the chat box to make sure you can hear me well enough. This is, well, it is December 30th, I think, yes. So it is the last live stream of the year. And I thought that I should cover any of the last questions you might have for 2024. All right, you guys can hear me, excellent. Talk a little bit about this new toy I have, which is the Leica Geovid Pro AB that I started messing with. And if there is time, delve a little bit into the political side. I'm just recovering from flu, so I haven't been doing a lot of shooting, but I've been able to spend quite a lot of time with a binocular. And since I was sick anyway, I hit Twitter X, and decided to look a little bit at the controversies of the day and found this H-1B visa controversy. Looked a little bit at what both sides of the argument are saying and basically concluded that, well, there are lots of retarded people out there, and that Elon Musk is a deep and heterodox thinker, not a communicator. And Vivek Ramaswamy, I'm generally not a major Vivek fan, although on a lot here I will agree with him. But this long Twitter post, he wrote to explain his position on H-1B visa and talking about American culture and Indian culture and all that. It was an absolute masterclass how to not write explanatory posts. It was so stunningly retarded. He managed to piss off everyone he did not mean to piss off, yet still failed to communicate the point. So it was very impressive, right? So you know how they talked about Ronald Reagan as being the great communicator? There is a reason Vivek is never going to be president. And one of the bigger ones is that he's not at all a great communicator. Anyhow, today's discussion is not supposed to be a lecture. I don't know how much time I have. Like I said, I crawled out of bed a couple of days ago, thought I was feeling better. Well, that was a mistake. I crawled out of bed again. Today, I seem to be feeling better. We'll see how long I last. In the meantime, if there are any questions, please bring them up. I will answer everything if I can as I go along. On anything really, optics or current events or whatever you want me to address. Like again, since I have not been working for a few days and I've been sick, I'm actually up to date on world events. It's kind of interesting. And until some questions come up, I'll talk a little bit about the Leica. Jared correctly says that these are lovely binoculars, and they are. So I have quite a lot of history with what used to be this original design. When they first came out with this design, notice how the barrels have this weird shape. It's not quite like a roof prism, not quite like a Poro. Technically, it's a type of a Poro prism. It's called Perger Poro, P-E-R-G-E-R. A gentleman by the last name of Perger is a Leica optical engineer who originally came up with these prism design that's used in these Leica binoculars, and they have the patents. So the only place we can find is Leica LRF binoculars. They haven't used it for any of their conventional binoculars, to my surprise, but perhaps they have good reasons. They've only used it for the LRI binoculars, and the first one they came out with was called the HDB, as I recall. I got my hands on it and used it, and in terms of optics and mechanics, absolutely loved it, and it was a nice rangefinder as well. Just Ilya, you're the master of cutting sarcasm. Yeah, look, I grew up in the Soviet Union, right? Other than an abject lesson to the world of how not to do things, the only good stuff that came out of the Soviet Union were sarcasm, cynicism, and a profoundly dark sense of humor. So I got all three. It's oh, I keep on forgetting about this. I'm not much of a promoter. I made myself these new coffee mugs, and I like them. One side has my logo. The other side has making sense of the nonsense since 1991. 1991 is the year when I came to America. I have made a few extras, so if you guys are interested, let's do this. Anybody who signs up on my website becomes a paying supporter and make a post that you just signed up and you want a mug, and I'll send you one. How's that? I have a few left. Where was I? Yeah. So binoculars. So the Leica HDB was the original, and since then they've made some small improvements, optically, mechanical, etc. Pretty big improvements to the laser rangefinder and to the built-in ballistics. I've been kind of looking at them. I have a good amount of mileage with the different versions of the Leicas and with the Swarovski EL range, and a friend of mine here locally has one. So I'll be able to compare them side by side, less so with the Zeiss, but enough to be able to offer some opinions. And I won't lie, I have a friend who recently looked at them very, very carefully. So I picked his brain as well, and it seems like we're mostly in agreement, which is not a bad thing. He's a rather experienced optics observer. Mr. XM388, how are you feeling? I'm better. Today is my first day truly without fever. A couple of days ago, I woke up without fever, decided, yay! Started moving around and paid for it, 4 hours later. Today, I seem to be a lot better. Still, I haven't gone to the range. If I wake up without fever again tomorrow, I'll go. I have another video I want to record. And I don't have that much time to get all my, match stuff set up. Mr. Gilberto Padilla here. Good to see you, sir. And the upcoming match that I'm going to have the weekend before SHOT Show is really one of the biggest reasons I kind of leaned on Leica, because these are in fairly short supply to get my hands on a pair. I want to use them in competition. I think they will save me quite a lot of time and effort. But anyhow, so if you're not familiar with these are the true alpha level range finding binoculars. At the very top of this heap, traditionally, have been Zeiss, Swarovski, and Leica, unsurprisingly. And we have a couple of other LRF binoculars that are kind of trying to compete in different ways. The most feature-rich is arguably the new Victronics Vector X. I have not tested those yet. I plan to at some point. And there are a couple of other very, very nice ones that I assume are made in Japan, but I'm not entirely sure that I want to look at. Probably the Revit, was it BLR 10B, something like that, is probably one I want to look at. EL range, as I said, I have access to. That's a Swarovski Zeiss, would be a little bit hard to get my hands on. I don't think I know anyone locally who has one. But again, I've visited them enough, so. The choice in terms of optical performance between the top end, a lot of it is going to come down to personal preferences. I think, on balance, I think I like the image quality of these the most, especially as the conditions turn rough. Okay, as the conditions turn rough, as in atmospheric conditions become a little bit trickier and stuff like that. I think the way Leica deals with contrast and color gives it a little bit of an edge, but honestly, they're all very, very close. Swarovski has the best edges probably and the widest field of view. Zeiss is about same field of view, as Leica. Another, very, very nice range. I think their sharpness is very good. I do think Leica has an edge. Between Swarovski and Leica, a lot of it's going to come down to how you like the treatment of the edges, how you like the color. But I've spent a lot of time through different lighting conditions last couple of days with these, and honestly, I'm just flabbergasted how wonderful they are. One of the big things for me with binoculars, because I know I'm going to spend a lot of time looking through them, I'm going to use these for the couple of matches, and I'm going to use them for a sheep hunt I've got coming up in February. And I'm going to spend a lot of time looking through them. So that's what I tried. That's what I tried to simulate. And gosh, minimal eye fatigue. And I'm not even feeling well, so I thought my eyes would be falling out of my head. Nope. Just wonderful, nice, and relaxing field of view, very, very good sharpness. But most importantly, and something that really doesn't get appreciated a lot, the way Leica treats contrast and color is just a little bit different and a little bit special. And this is easily the least fatiguing way to look through a binocular. I am never trying to go, geez, if I could only make it a little bit sharper. Whatever I want to look at, it's all there. Right, a couple of questions here, then I'll continue. Mr. Chad Fry, I visited Izhevsk in the winter of 2003-2004. Thought it was a beautiful country. Flying to Moscow, then took a train to Izhevsk. Yeah, I grew up in Moscow. I've never been to Izhevsk. Russia is a beautiful country, right? There's nothing wrong with Russia other than the Russians. Yeah, not even Russians so much, but the Russian government and Russian politics. And Russian culture is very bipolar, some beautiful, wonderful parts to it, and some other features. But yeah, absolutely beautiful country. There's no question about it. Mr. Gilberto Padilla, can you recommend some binos between 1500 and 2000? No rangefinder, electronics, 42mm objective minimum. It will be used handheld only. And further down, I get discounts from Steiner if that makes a difference. So Steiner Predator is very good, but if you can spend 1500 to 1000, so I'm very fond of the Vortex Razor UHD, and the two that I use the most are the 10x50 and 8x32. I know you said you want a 42mm minimum. Unless you're doing a ton of low light, I have to admit that since I got the little 8x32 Razor UHD, that's basically become my go-to binocular. The field of view is crazy wide. Optical performance is excellent. Small and light, very easy to handhold. If you do need a little bit more magnification, 10x50 is good. I compare 10x50 and 10x42 to each other. I prefer the 10x50 by a little bit, but they are wonderful. Maven top-end binoculars are quite good. With Steiner, let me see. It was a version of the Predator that I've looked at. I'm trying to remember which one. There was some abbreviation behind it. I have not tested this new Steiner Predator LRF binocular, but it looks like you're not looking for the LRF anyway. With Steiner, it was very interesting. I really like the 10x50 poros. But, that only works if you don't need to look very far away. Excuse me, don't need to look up close. If you're only looking like 50 yards and out, that works pretty well. Because the individual focus, you don't want to be messing with focus at all. Steiner has the HX, which is quite good. I think that was the Predator. 10x42 that I looked at, and the large 10x50s that I really like. But yeah, with a Steiner you can save quite a lot of money, especially since you have discounts. So it won't cost you all that much. I think the HX is probably above the Predator right now. The problem with the HX is that the only ones I've looked at in any detail were the 15 power, and that's not for hand holding. They have an HX 10x42, but I have not tested it, so it's hard to say. Between 1500 and 2000, it would be very hard to beat Razor UHD. But if you're looking for the best bang for the buck binocular, for a little bit less money, it was very, very hard to overlook the tracked. So Razor UHDs are a little bit better, but tracked binoculars are in $1,000-ish range. Let me see. It's a toric HD or UHD. Hold on. What did tracked call those binoculars? I'm pulling it up. Give me 1 second. I'll put a link in the chat box. So if you don't, if you're not getting discounts anywhere, tracked toric UHD. Oh, there we go. 10x50 is perfect. So if I was spending my own money judiciously, I did not want to go up to the price of the Razor UHDs, it would be very hard for me to overlook. It's about to go in the chat box. This tracked toric UHD 10x50. With 10 magnification, I do prefer a little bit larger objective. 10x50 to me works a little bit better in low light, and just a ton more weight stabilizes them a little bit better. I'd be looking probably at that, at least of the ones that I've looked at. Can you guys give me 1 moment? I'll turn off the sound and video for just 1 sec. Sorry about that. I sort of assumed that none of you are itching to listen to me blow my nose or see it in real time. So for Gilberto Padillas, once again, if you can swing the Razor UHD, I don't think you'll regret it. If you can't, the Storic 10x50 is like $750, I think, something like that. And I think they're running some sort of a discount for New Year's, 10% off, something like that. I will see if I can find it. Let me see. I thought I saw an email from Tract about that. I don't have any sort of affiliate relationship with Tract. So what do they have? They have year-end demo sale. Okay, if you look into their outlets, it's 25% off on different optics. Let me see what they have. Maybe there is something in the outlet that I didn't see. So, okay, so the 10x50 is $744. That's the link I gave you. Well, that's probably the best bang for the buck that I can think of right at this moment. So, Mr. Gunto to Minnesota here, the torics aren't bad. Torics are very, very good. And the way Tract works is it the best binocular in the world? No, there are other comparable binoculars, but for what you pay, it's very hard to overlook the toric. So, all right, Mr. Nate Spence. I like the glass in my Leica Geovid Pros over the Swaro EL range binos. Yeah, so do I. But yeah, you have to admit it's pretty close, right? So I think in the center of the field of view, the way Leica treats color and the way I see some of the details, I think it's a little bit better. And I'll do a proper side by side to confirm. But going off of my memory, I think that's the approach. Mr. Red-Headed Stepchild, from an ergonomic standpoint, I really like the open bridge design of those binos. I find that is usually much more comfortable to handle. So with the Leicas, it's more than that, right? So with the roof prism binoculars, and remember, these are not roof prisms, these are Purger prisms, very different. With the roof prism binoculars, you have fairly straight barrels. So people usually try to put some finger grooves or something to locate your hands the right way. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It works for different hands. Here there are no grooves of any sort, etc. But if you look at it carefully, you see there is a little bit of this subtle curve to the barrels, right? And for my hands, the angle at which I end up positioning my hand is just perfect. Not only because it's an open bridge, but because it's not just a straight barrel, right? So the way I hold these, there is very, very little stress on my wrists. I can bring the elbows in and put them on top of my body, and I have an extremely stable way of holding it. And one of the reasons it's even more important for LRI binoculars, there are two buttons here to operate, right? So there is a fire button and a setup button, and they have different tactile feel. You can easily tell which is which, even if you forget the location. But if you have to press a button, the outer design of the binoculars has to be spectacularly ergonomic. Otherwise, what's going to happen if your wrists are in some sort of weird, unnatural position? When you press a button, you're going to shift, right? With these, I need to be able to press a button and shift nothing, right? So right now I'm pressing a button, okay? I have to press a button and shift absolutely nothing. And for that, this is probably the most comfortable for me, at least from my hands design. But these are expensive binoculars. They're what, $3,600. Now we'll talk about the LRF features a little bit. I haven't explored them all, so I mostly wanted to talk about the image quality and the mechanical design. But they're very full featured. They're not cheap. If you're gonna spend that much money, I would try to find a place where you can get your hands on them and see if the ergonomics work for you, right? Just because they work for me, doesn't mean they're going to work for you. On the other hand, I know quite a few people with this binocular design, and I have not really heard any complaints about ergonomics. So, there's that. Mr. Chad Fry. I believe you're a fan of the US Optics TS series scopes, and I have considered trying out the 3 to 12 by 44. But the eye relief is only 2 to 3 inches. Is the eye relief on those scopes a hindrance? So I like the little TS scopes. I was very surprised that I liked them. I'll be honest with you. I did not think I would like them as much as I did. But all of my mileage with TS is with the 3 to 12 by 44. I have not found eye relief to be any sort of an issue, but also I did not try to put it on a 7-pound 458 lot. Right, I've had it in a 22. I've had it in a few different ARs, 2 to 3 and 6.5 Grendel. I had it. What else did I have it on? Had it in the 3.8 bolt gun without any issues. If you set up this eye relief correctly, 2 inches of eye relief on the high end is generally sufficient, and it has a fairly slim eyepiece. So one of the things that happens normally, the only time I ever get hit by a scope, right? If I end up crawling forward on a stalk, and if there's a large eyepiece, it's a lot closer to my eyebrow than the rear lens is to the eye, right? So that's where you can get hit by the scope. With this one, because the diameter of the eyepiece is quite slim, I have not had any of these issues. But again, I did not put it on an unbreak 338 Lapo either, right? So there's that. Mr. Cuntbucket is here. Howdy, party people. Boy, did you come to the wrong channel. Party people? With the king of the nerds here? Yeah. But it is good to see you. Happy upcoming new year to all of you, gentlemen. I do appreciate you popping on without any forewarning or short notice or anything like that. For those who are new here, as I mentioned, I made myself a bunch of new coffee mugs, my logo on one side, and the inscription making sense of the nonsense since 1991. That's a year when we came to America. I made a few extras. Anybody who goes to my darklordofoptics.com website, signs up, and puts up a post to that effect will get a free coffee tumbler. until I run out. I can always make more. If they're popular, I'll make more. Anyhow, where was I? I was talking about the Geovid Pro, and we talked about optics. We talked about ergonomics, which honestly I think are wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about the laser rangefinder. And the laser LRF electronics and features part is going to be relatively incomplete. Chat Fry, we just part in a different way. That is very, very true. And I'll do more videos and live streams. I'll probably do an article on these binoculars, so I'll do a more thorough coverage of the LRF features. But basically, one of the things that makes it stand out from the direct competition, the Leica, the Zeiss and Swaro, is that the ballistic engine is done by Applied Ballistics, Leica partnered with Applied Ballistics, and that gives me quite a lot more confidence in how the ballistics are done. It's not that Applied Ballistics is the only game in town. I'm very happy with Vortex's geoballistics. I'm happy with Applied Ballistics. I have a good amount of mileage with the ballistic engine that Element uses, and that seems to work very well. But with some of the Euro companies in the past, I've seen things that were relatively quirky. Does it mean they don't work? By now, they probably figured it out. But on the other hand, having working with applied ballistics gives it a little bit of an edge, certain traceability, very, very importantly, access to the whole AB Elite engine is included in these binos. All of the custom drag curves that Applied Ballistics has are available. You just download like a ballistics app, which I did. It immediately paired with the binocular, zero issues. Let me show you what it looks like. I did not spend a lot of time. I for now, just programmed one profile for my competition gun. I'll program quite a few more. And that was basically it. The whole pairing business took me solid 5 minutes. I don't know. And I looked at a couple of. I went outside and arranged some objects where I had a good idea of the distance, and the drops looked about right. So I am going to, when I make it to the range, I'm going to double check and make sure that the calculations are accurate, but they looked, so far they seem to agree with my notes. When I go to the range, I know exactly at which distances the plates are, so I'll be able to check everything exactly and make sure that the drops it generates match my weapons mounted laser rangefinder, which happens to be using geoballistics since it's a Vortex. So when I went out and started looking at just trying to see how easy it is to range, I could comfortably range rocks handheld out to 2,600 yards. That's the furthest I was able to range handheld. I have not experimented much off of the tripod. I will do so at the next mounting. 2,600 yards handheld for me on good size objects, but not on mirrors, not on reflective objects, is quite impressive. Honestly, more than I'm ever going to need. But it's nice to have a little bit of margin. The getting into the menus is pretty straightforward, just 2 buttons. Everything is logical. I did not need to look at the manual. It all made sense. There is a nice and quick way to incorporate wind. It is supposed to talk with other Applied Ballistics enabled external devices like the Kestrel and I think Garmin devices. I have a Garmin watch that has Applied Ballistics. So I'm going to try that, and I'm going to try to hook it up to my Kestrel. I'll see what else it can talk to. I'm curious if it can talk to Applied Ballistics Quantum app, because I do have that one as well. But that honestly is not super critical for my purposes. It is important for me that it can talk to the Kestrel wind meter, right? So with the applied ballistics engine in the laser in the binocular, and with the relatively accurately measured wind coming in from the external meter. That basically gives me the complete ballistic solution. The special source sorter is this shot probability analysis, but I have not had a chance to figure this out yet. In principle, mathematically, it's not super hard to figure out. It's a function that's been available in a few calculators where if the ballistic engine knows the accuracy your rifle is capable of, it can, when you laser target, and give you a probability of you hitting it, assuming you do everything correctly, at least correctly enough. But again, that's something for me to test a little bit later. Another feature that I need to set up and keep moving before I go hunting in February is that it can correlate on the map the last point that you've lased or that you've measured, so that if you shoot an animal in that spot, you don't have to go and try to guess where exactly it is. It'll walk you to the last, I think that's how it works, to the last point that you've measured the distance to. So those features are important for me, and I'll get them set up, but I have not had a chance to play with them yet. Let's see, what do we have? Mr. Chad Fry. So how good are these SWFA Gen 2 scopes? They're good for the money, right? You know, if you are looking, if you're used to a Leica or Tangent Theta, they would want to press you all that much. Oh, okay. Gilberto Padilla posted something interesting. The Gen 2 SWFA scopes, optically and mechanically, are very similar to the originals. Well, the modernized version of the originals. The big new thing for them is that the turrets finally have a zero stop, and they can be, set up a couple of different ways. Aside from that, it is more or less the same scope that is going to hold up, is going to track, it's going to last a long time, and it's not going to cost you a ton of money. That's basically it. It doesn't sound like an exciting message, but if you consider how much everything has been going up in price, it's pretty impressive that these guys have been able to improve the turrets and keep that whole track record and set it up. I've been using various WFSS scopes as loaners, test scopes, etc., for a couple of decades now, and they've never gone bad on me. Now, I'm sure there'll be some that break, everything can break. But you gotta say these the few that I have, and I have several, I've been spinning turrets on some of them for 20 years and they still work. So I kind of like the track record of that kind of reliability and repeatability. Mr. Gilberto Padilla, Vortex UHD 8x40 only 900? That's very good. Well, where did you find that? Let me see. UHD. Are you sure it's UHD, not HD? Because that's a different binocular. HD is also very good, but not as good as the UHD. Let's see. On Optics Planet, $1,400 and out of stock. How about Optics? They often have $900 on Optics. All right, I'm gonna generate a link and post it in a good find. Wow, that's an amazing price. Interesting. It says end of life products. I think they. I know what it is. So, and they still have them in stock. Okay, guys, if you're looking for a binocular, I see it. Here is the link. This is my affiliate link. So if you buy one, use this link if you don't mind. So here's what it is. It's listed as discontinued, but it's not. So Vortex reworked some of the accessories that come with the binocular, and that resulted in an SKU number. Change in SKU number means the previous SKU is discontinued, same exact binocular. So if you look in your optics, you'll find the new SKU at a regular price, and this old one with different accessories that is a lot less expensive. And Razer UHD for $900 is an absolute steal between Razor UHD and for 900 and Toric for 750. I'd do the Razor. Toric is a wonderful binocular, but if you're getting the UHD within $150, I'd go with that. So, Mr. Gilberto Padilla, the chat didn't let me post a link. How interesting. I didn't know it restricts it. Well, I can post a link, so here you go. All right. I'm going to mute and turn off the video for a moment again. I'll be right back. Again, if anybody's itching to watch me blow my nose, I can make you a separate video clip. Otherwise, I'll keep posing. As I said, I got hit with this crazy flu. I'm a lot better, but definitely not up to 100%. Alrighty, so all right, there's a gentleman on my locals website who is the honorable mention, says please send them up. Absolutely. I'll find your email, I'll shoot you an email, and I'll get your contact information. Okay. Where was I? LRF functions. There's going to be, I've been looking online at how different the LRF binoculars arrange data, and it looks like we have two different stylistic preferences happening, and I don't know, I'm not entirely sure which side of it I am on. So there are several binoculars out there, like the Vector X and the SIG, who give you a snapshot of all the data there. That's very data rich, lots of data within your field of view. Leica seems to be doing it a little bit differently. When you after you range, what I'm seeing so far, and I don't know if I can change it. I'll look at it. It doesn't look like it. I think I changed the sequence, but not what the screen looks like. You have a very simple aiming point, your range, and it gives you a distance. Then it flips to your holdover, whatever is ballistic profile, whatever ballistic profile is active. Then wind, and then shot probability analysis. That's what it looks like offhand to me. They cycle relatively quickly enough where it doesn't look like it's going to bother me. But at any given time, there is only one number on the screen, so it's very difficult for me to get confused. Now, don't know if I'd get confused if I have more data there all at once. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if I want it all in the snapshot or if I like it when it kind of cycles through very simplified through simplified snippets of data. Both approaches, I think, work. Like, coming from the old original binocular side, unsurprisingly, probably leaned on trying to make the view as uncluttered as possible. And I kind of appreciate that. But we'll see. We'll see what works best for competition. We'll see what works best for hunting. I think both are perfectly viable approaches. So time will tell. Beyond that, I don't know if there's anything else really that interesting I can tell you about this Geovid Pro AB Plus that I've been testing. So far as a binocular, whenever you introduce additional screens, electronics, laser rangefinder, etc., to a binocular, you are going to compromise something in terms of image quality. So it's always a little bit of a compromise. And as far as LRF equipped binoculars go, just to reiterate, I think this is the least amount of compromising I've seen to date. I think this is the best image quality out of an LRF binocular that I've seen to date. The only other LRF bino I have on hand right now that I quickly looked at in comparison is a Meopta Optica LR, which is a lot less expensive. I think it's $1,600, something like that. So it should not be in competition with the Leica, and it's not. It's not close. Not close as a laser rangefinder, not close as a binocular. Nor should it be, right? So it's very good for the money. It's not a competition for the alpha class. With conventional binoculars, I know the top end stuff is very, very good, but when you drop into the mid range to laser UHDs, which is discussed, stuff like that, laser UHDs are good enough where I'm not necessarily like using them and going, yeah, I'd love something better. There is a reason I use Razer UHDs. I can use anything I damn well please, right? But with the LRF equipped binoculars, I've played with the SIGs. They're not bad, but the blue tint is a pain in the ass. I played with the Razer, with the Fury 5000 HD. Again, it was a very good laser rangefinder. I didn't like it as a binocular. The Meopta Optica LR and Delta Titanium RF are relatively inexpensive and a decent binocular, but there's still compromises. When you add a laser rangefinder to a binocular, if you can swing the price, I think there's a reason to go high end. It's a bigger gap than with conventional binoculars. You're still getting into some diminishing returns, but with these, I know what I'm paying for. And to be fair, there is a good number of options. There's a previously mentioned Victronics. Once again, I haven't tested them. I've seen one briefly, seen some pictures. Also, a lot more tint. These don't really have any tint that I can think of. Victronics, nobody talks about it, interestingly, but there's significant blue tint, not as high as in the SIGs, but it's significant. There is a Revec BLR, those are all $2,700, $2,800. And then there is this ice Swarovski and Leica. So it's not the only game in town, but it's, once again, I think it's the finest image quality in an LRF bino I've seen to date. Okay. All right. We've been at it for about 45 minutes, so I don't have a ton of time left. Since I crawled out of bed and decided I'm hungry, I pulled out some of the antelope meat from the antelope I shot back in August, and I'm making a Japanese curry with antelope meat, and it's beginning to smell pretty damn good. So soon enough, I'm going to lose my focus and decide to go eat dinner. So, Jared, primary arms prices have risen significantly. Has the quality risen correspondingly? I think you have to be more specific. Are you talking about any particular products? What company is the next primary arms? Well, again, you kind of have to specify. Are you talking about the same product from primary arms that went up in price? Or are you talking about in general that they have more products and a lot of them are more expensive? So I'm not entirely sure what price increase you're talking about. So I just pulled up Primary Arms website just to take a quick look at if there are any sudden price increases that I am not aware of. No. Prices are more or less the same they've been this year. I'm not seeing any big jumps at all. So yeah, Jared, you kind of have to be a little bit more specific. As to what company is the next Primary Arms? I don't know. So Primary Arms is still up and coming, growing rapidly, making good stuff. So I'm not seeing anybody on the horizon who has quite the resources to grow as fast and have as much market leverage. There are always smaller companies coming and going. The new company, I've been doing some consulting for them, so you'll hear me talk about them quite a bit, is Telson Optics, Telson. They kind of have their coming out party at SHOT next month, which is going to be interesting. I've seen the prototype scopes. I have not seen any production ones, so I don't generally review products until I have any production models to look at. So we'll talk about that at a later point. But they're good guys. They're doing good things. Hope they're doing well. With primary arms, at the pace at which they're growing, introducing new, pretty good quality products, I think they are far from done. Um, I fully expect them to be a threat to quite a few larger players for quite a while. It's gonna, it's primary arms is not going anywhere. So, and again, I have some insight into some of the new things primary arms has going for them that I can't talk about. We'll see what they release at SHOT Show, and then I'll be able to disclose more. But they're good. So, all right, what else you got, guys? Going once, going twice. All right. Time to switch to the latest political stupidity, or you guys want to stick to guns and optics for a bit longer? Or go back and forth? Okay, I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I'll let you think about that a little bit. So I'll touch on this H-1B visa controversy a little bit, and probably the larger controversy on immigration right now. I'm not going to address too much the people who are talking about it very loudly on Twitter. I can kind of offer my angle on it. Robbie Rezer, did you see the Collis tease a new scope for January 2000? Yeah, they've got another scope, a precision scope, I believe, coming out at SHOT Show. I don't know if they said exactly what it is. If they haven't, I shouldn't either, but it should be released at SHOT. Mr. Red-Headed Stepchas, let's do politics. Yeah. So what I'm going to say on this whole immigration debate is going to be mildly offensive to a lot of people. Some to Americans, some to foreigners, some to everyone. I'm kind of a mix, right? So I did not come here via an H-1B visa or a student visa. I came to America as a refugee. My whole family did. So I finished high school and did all of my education in the United States. There are all sorts of very smart people on different sides of this argument saying profoundly asinine things. And interestingly, I think a lot of them fundamentally kind of agree with each other. They are just showing complete inability to understand what the other person is saying. And to their defense, the people they're arguing with are demonstrating complete inability to communicate their point. I'm quite stunned, to be honest with you. Then again, maybe I don't communicate as well as I think either, so we'll see. America, people say America is a country of immigrants, which is true. On the other hand, we can't have too many, which is also true. Um, Elon Musk and company are saying we need to work hard to attract the best and the brightest to America, which I think is the most important point. Their position is saying, yeah, but all of our immigration problems are being abused by various H-1B farms, which are dragging people from India and stuff. And then they start quoting things from whatever H-1B database they found. And some of those numbers they're quoting are definitely bullshit because they would be illegal based on how H-1B is set up. All of that is details. When you have a government program, people will find a way to abuse it. That's why we need to have people which we're also going to have. This was why we need to have people kind of look at these things and reevaluate them, right? Originally, when H-1B was set up, they said, okay, whatever jobs you're looking for needs to get paid more than $60,000. Then they forgot to adjust it to inflation, right? So our various visa programs need to be able to attract bright and capable people from all around the world, not just India. And we need to be able to attract them at different stages in their careers, right? We have a visa program called, gosh, I think it's O1, where that allows us to bring in people who already established scientists, people who already have their doctorates and have made some discoveries, and we have sort of a means to bring them here as we should. The H1B is not for people who are already, international stars within the world of technology. We need to they're there to just bring smart and capable people who already got their education for the most part, and we can bring them in. That's another level we need to break, and we need to be able to catch people when they're already stars and bring them here. We need to be able to catch people who are promising and bright and capable, have the resume not yet stars, and bring them here, make them Americans, and use their brains to further push the high-tech part of our economy. We also need to be able to find brilliant students and bring them here so that they finish their education in American universities, and so that we can take leverage of their brains. These guys are the hardest to find because you don't know how they're going to work out. Yet we still should bring them in. Should we do all of that exactly the way we do it now? No. Both the student visa and H-1B visa programs have been heavily abused, and we kind of know how they've been abused. And if the government was capable of moving just a little bit more efficiently, we can cut out the bulk of the abuse and get the visa programs to work better. Now, after a few years, there will be new quick thinkers who will find a way to abuse these visa immigration programs again, and we'll have to revisit that again and do so. Fully cutting out immigration of technically capable people in the United States is a losing proposition. We will fall behind. Isolationism is a terrible idea. It doesn't work. Okay. And in the grand scheme of things, if we are trying to deal with the biggest immigration problem, I would say the biggest immigration problem is on the southern border, not so much the abuse of the visa programs. However, given the size and scale of the United States government, I have full confidence that we're able to tackle things in parallel, right? We should be looking at the abuse of H-1B and student visas at the same time as we're trying to close the southern border and kick out the criminal illegals and whoever else we can get our hands on who are not being productive. That's that's pretty much the simple point. I don't understand why is it controversial that we want to bring brilliant people to the United States so that they can become Americans and make the country better. I don't understand how it is a controversial point that we should shut down the border, kick out as many unproductive illegals as we can get our hands on, and then figure out, okay, so do we need a different program to bring in here some sort of blue collar labor, etc. That's basically it. Now, there is another, I see there are a couple of comments, and I'll touch on that in a moment. Uh, another part of this, and I've heard the Eric Weinstein, very, very bright guy, comment on this, saying that we, in our universities, our STEM programs are very strong and we bring up some of the best talent possible. That is absolutely correct. The problem is not that we cannot bring up in America good engineers and scientists. We absolutely can, and we absolutely do. The basic problems we do not educate enough of them. And even if we shut down the Department of Education now and reform universities and start increasing the volumes, it's going to take decades to undo the harm done by the Democrats to American educational system. Okay, and we need engineers now. If we do not keep our technological edge, if we lose it, we will not get it back. Would it be nice to keep it going and then maybe increase our edge using just domestic talent? Yeah. Is it possible? No. Not enough people. This is where one of the arguments about culture kind of comes in. Going into STEM fields for native-born Americans is not sexy, right? When I was in the 90s, when I was going to high school and college in the United States, in Los Angeles, if you talked to some of the brightest and the smartest people, they wanted to be lawyers and doctors. They were mathematically capable, scientifically capable. The more jobs, the professional jobs with the most cachet, the ones they were interested in were medicine and law, which are very, very important, but these are fundamentally unproductive industries, right? The best and the brightest, for the most part, were not American born best and brightest, for the most part, were not hugely interested in going into technical fields. Some were, I went to Caltech. I know what brilliant people looks like. I'm not one of them. Uh, there are people there you just can't hold back. But for the just genuinely a little bit smarter than average, for too many of them, technical fields did not look appealing. We've spent too many years making fun of nerds and geeks. Nerds and geeks build the world we live in. And we made it very uncool to go into anything technology related. A good example of that is Vivek Ramaswamy himself, who did not do anything technical in his work, although he ended up going back in tech. He's a lawyer, right? So, at least I believe Elon Musk on this a little bit more. He has the same basic background as I do, physics undergrad. Well, mine is applied physics. So he at least has some understanding. And last point to address is that I keep on hearing again on Twitter, all these people pointing about, how their nephew with a 120, 180 IQ, straight GPA, etc., can't freaking find a job, graduated. It's bullshit. I just spent more than a year trying to hire an engineer. And to be fair, it's not with computer science. I'm an optics guy, so for my day job, I run a small company. Hiring is horrible. Competent people basically don't exist. I finally hired one who is starting in a week, and I had to hire him from another company. There is no horde of these unemployed technically competent Americans looking for a job. They do not exist. And the ones who are straight out of college, not that I've seen many, I've seen a few. It will cost me. I haven't found one where I was willing to take a chance, because they come out of American undergraduate universities, and sometimes grad schools, with some serious attitude problems and sense of entitlement. And where I work with the military. I can't hire an immigrant, right? I made an attempt to try to bring somebody from Israel via an H-1B, and looked at it a little bit, and it's mission impossible, because the India H-1B farms that outsource stuff that bring Indians here are completely dominating the program. So the program have gotten fully corrupted. I'd like to see it reformed. We have to be able to get bright people from India, China, Israel, France, Germany, Italy, UK, whatever, and bring them here. The fact that H-1B is so totally dominated by Indians right now is not a good thing. So, all right, that's that. Let's look at what we have in the comments. Mr. Gilberto Padilla. But on a serious note, which new reticles have you seen in SMB scopes? I saw a new tree reticle. What do you think about it? That's the TR2 ID. Yeah, it seems like a good reticle. I was pretty happy with it. I thought it did very, very well. In a high magnification scope, I think it will do better than the grid reticle. It's something like the 5-20 or something like that. I think the grid reticle is excellent. I have it in the 6-36. I think for that scope, it's a little bit too much, although still works well for me. The new tree reticle is very good. So I think Schmidt did well with that one. Also, Mr. Gilberto Padilla, the Mexican cartels are a threat to the U.S. We should treat them like an enemy. The Mexican government is incompetent and anemic. Yeah, you're not getting an argument from me. As far as southern border goes, we need to deploy some troops over there, get a few SEAL teams to hop over across the border, go through some cartels' strongholds and explain to them how things can be done if they don't quiet down. and I think it will resolve some border issues very, very rapidly. I'm completely certain that Mexico will object to the SEALs operating in their territory. I'm equally confident that I don't give a shit. So, and I live in a border state, so. Mr. RHSC agreed some careful adjustments to our immigration programs are needed, along with honest enforcement, not blowing it all up. Correct. Shutting down the borders and becoming fully isolated is a recipe for rapid decline and complete failure. Even a country as big as United States cannot be isolated. And on top of it, we can close ourselves from the world. The world is not going to forget about us. We don't have a choice. We like to think we have infinite choices. We don't. That's just it. Links here. Howdy, sir. Mr. Chad Fry. And I'll say I'm glad I went to grad school after being in the industry for 7 years. There you go. So I didn't, well, kind of, right? I did my undergrad. I didn't go to grad school after Caltech. I went and did a couple of startups, stuff like that. And I only went back to school to get an MBA. And for me, that was very useful because I ended up kind of straddling the technical and non-technical world, gave me a much better, give you a much better understanding of how companies run. So, okay, I'm gonna pause for a moment again. Give me 1 sec. I'm back. Mr. Chad Fry, what industry are you in? What technical field? I'm curious now. I had a very interesting experience at the range. It was about 3 weeks ago, something like that. I was there recording a video. Some kid comes over. We chat a little bit. He's a grad student at a local university getting his PhD in physics, doing some optical, different branch of optics fields. The funniest thing is that, oh, I know you. So he has actually seen my videos. It's kind of interesting. He was shooting a very nice AK. Smart kid, it seems like. Okay. All right. Let's see. We've been at it for a bit over an hour. So unless you guys have anything else you want me to comment on, we'll start wrapping it up. I got what I wanted to say. Oh, how it's environmental scientists work at super fund sites. What is super fund sites? Now that's interesting. Okay, got it. Oh, that's interesting. I used to live near one of them in California. Used to drive right by one of them every day where the old Rocketdyne was. That's a good question. From Link. Is 42mm objective size adequate for the 3-18 SNB? The Tangent 3-15 has a 50mm objective. Everything is a compromise. It just depends on how high in magnification you want to go in relatively low light. If I'm trying to keep the scope relatively trim, 42mm with good optical system is sufficient. 50mm gives you more low light performance. It just depends on where you want to compromise. That's pretty much it. So, Gilberto Padilla, my friend bought the UHD binos. Thank you for the recommendation. Excellent. Let me know how he likes it. I'm very curious. Chad Fry, contaminated sites. Which part of the country are you in? Yeah, like I said, I used to live very close to the old Rocketdyne site. That was interesting. Okay. All right. What What can you recommend for binos that have LRF, reticle, and can communicate with the Kestrel? Do they exist? So the only one that can do that at the moment is the Victronics Vector X. It is reportedly quite good, about $2,800, $2,900. I'll post a link. Give me 1 sec. I have not evaluated one. I plan to at some point 2025. The few people I have seen who have them seem to like them. It's a kind of a clever system, and it's very, very feature rich. There we go. I found it. I'll give you a link. The notably more complicated interface compared to the Leicas. I am putting a link into the chat box. A lot more complicated interface, and it promises connectivity with damn near everything under the sun, which is difficult. So I'm very curious how they pulled it off. Victronics is a good company. They know how to make stuff. So I'm curious how they do it, but no personal experience yet. So we'll see. I'm hoping to do a relatively thorough overview of different high-end LRF binoculars as we go through 2025. I have a few hunts and competitions set up. I'm starting with a Leica, and partly because every time I do something like this, I want to have sort of a reference standard. And since this is the one I already had pretty good familiarity with from an optomechanical standpoint, I'm going to start using it, and that becomes my reference standard. And as I go through all the other options, I'll be comparing them to the Leica so that we have some sort of a common reference point. So that's that. Mr. Chet from New Jersey, but I worked in several states. Yeah, I'm sure there's no shortage of contaminated areas all over the place. All right. Gilbert, aside from that, so the only other LRF binocular that has a reticle that I've seen is a Steiner 10x50, but it has some limitations in the way LRF has done. It's an older model. It is very good optically, and I like the reticle, so that worked. A link. I don't think we talked about X757 Vortex is making for the Army, and I'm okay to discuss it if you're not involved in it. I'm not involved in it, but I have a lot of NDAs that I've signed. And I wrote an article for Guns and Ammo on XM157 quite a few moons ago. Pretty much everything I can say about it without getting into trouble is in that little article. So I'll have to refer to that. If there are specific questions, I can address them. But otherwise, there's not so much that I can disclose. It is very, very cool. A blind spot. I find it difficult to know when to purchase high-end LRF binos. Nobody wants to buy a lab radar right after the Garmin comes out. That is very true, but I'm not aware of anything in terms of LRF binos that's going to come out and upset the cart. Doesn't mean nothing will, right? But I'm not aware of anything on the horizon that will make currently available options obsolete. So, Mr. Michael Feldman, love the content, Dark Lord. Well, thank you, sir. Really do appreciate it. Yeah, with LabRadar and Garmin is also interesting. Garmin is super cool, but I have not switched to it. I switched instead to the FX True Velocity, and I probably like it the most of all the radars that I have tried. Partly because it measures a velocity at 4 distances out to 300 meters. And that's that. Are you excited for SHOT Show 2025? Are you going? Yes, I am going. I am excited. If so, what's on your wish list? So, I view SHOT Show a little bit differently. Sometimes I get surprised by a new product, but not so much. Generally, different companies talk to me. I have a pretty good idea of what's going to be where. Sometimes there's something new. For me, SHOT Show is more about people, right? So many people within this industry that I know and friendly with in general. Like, there are a lot of good people that I don't get to see otherwise. We're all in different parts of the country. We only cross paths at SHOT Show. So what I like the most about SHOT is people. Also, what I started doing last few years, I get my brother and my cousin to come and help me with some photography, videography, and looking at stuff. And for us, it becomes kind of a boys' week out, right? Again, my brother lives next to him, but my cousin is in California. I don't see him very much. I like him. He's a good guy and good man. So I look forward to just spending, you know, time with. I mean, I love spending time with family, but sometimes, I only have one brother. It's nice to go spend a few days just with us. So that honestly is something I look forward to the most. It shows the people, the camaraderie, and it's of course always nice to see new products. So, all right, Mr. RHSC. Hope you get back to full strength fast and have a great new year. Well, thank you, sir. Really do appreciate it. Sundin, any experience with Meopta Meostar B1 binos? I've heard they're similar to Leica in terms of image quality. I have a lot of experience with the Meostars. They're excellent mid-range binos. They're not as good as these Leicas. They are competitive with Leica Trinovids, the lower grade stuff, Vortex Razor HDs and things like that. I don't think they're quite as good as the Razor UHDs. At least the R1s aren't. But they're very competitive at that $1,500 range. At higher range, not as much. Thank you. If you go to one of the ranges near Boulder City, the Dillinger has good burgers. I live in Las Vegas, unfortunately. Yeah, I was just in Vegas a week ago playing in a table tennis tournament, of all things. To the best of my knowledge, I'm the only person in the known history who alternates table tennis and shooting tournament competitions. Chen, the question I have about the XM57 is that with the weight and size, it does not have any night vision or thermal capabilities. Intention to only be daytime capable. Probably not something I can get into. Sorry. Mr. Michael Feldman, fantastic answer. Well, thank you, sir. I do appreciate it. Chad, you're very intelligent. Oh, thank you. You give us the relevant theory. We need to understand optics on a deeper level. And you stay more on the applied side. This is why I find your content so interesting. Well, I'm glad you do. A long time ago, when I just started doing this, I made a decision that I'm not going to dumb it down to the lowest common denominator. I am not a link farm. I'm not trying to just tell you buy what I buy. I take time and effort to explain exactly why I make the decisions that I make, and if that helps your decision process, then that's wonderful. Mr. Hey, not sure who that is. What are your thoughts on a Tangent 7-35, considering switching from ZCO 527, as I don't like the MPCT 3 reticle I currently have. I'm worried about a narrow eye box with the TT. 7-35 has an improved eye box compared to the 5-25. And having spent a lot of time with it in terms of overall optical and mechanical performance, I think it is the finest precision rifle scope available in the market today, bar none. So that's pretty much that. I did some videos on it with some comparisons. You can find them on my YouTube channel, or if you have specific questions, hit up my website, darklordofoptics.com, and I'll address anything specific that you may have. Okay. All right, that antelope curry is smelling really good, and I'm getting hungry, so I think I'm gonna go and start figuring out dinner. Thank you guys for sticking with me. We've been at it for about an hour and 15 minutes. As I said, this is obviously the last live stream of the year. 2024 was kind of a hit and miss year. but hopefully 2025 is better. Thank you all for sticking with me, and Happy New Year. And I will see you all, or you will see me in 2025. Take care and good night.